So, how much more money would you need to earn to stop worrying about money? Is it 10,000 more, 20,000, 50,000? I've worked with many clients earning six figures, people who have millions in their bank account, who lie awake at night with the same money anxiety. My name's Catherine Morgan. I'm a former financial advisor, and I have seen this pattern played out hundreds of times. The myth that more money will solve all of your money problems may be the myth that is keeping you broke, not because you're not earning enough, but because you're chasing a target that never stops moving. And in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you why earning more money won't fix your money problems and what will. Now, let me tell you about a time when I finally earned enough. I'd spent years working my way through various roles in the bank, right from the age of 18 all the way through bank advisor, mortgage advisor, investment advisor. And I was really convinced that this societal belief that getting the next pay rise, getting the next job was going to create more certainty for me, more financial stability. And it convinced me that once I hit this certain income level, that this anxiety around money would disappear. And I had a very specific number in mind, one that felt that it would create safety and security. And when I finally hit that number, when I was 32 years old, here's what happened. Absolutely nothing. The financial anxiety that I felt was still there. The hypervigilance around checking my bank balance was still there. The way that my body reacted, my stomach would get that sick feeling when unexpected expenses suddenly came up and I had to try and find money that I had spent to meet that need was still there. And I remember sitting at my desk at the bank, looking at my bank account and feeling this wave of stress. Well, if this number isn't enough, then what is? And that's when I realized that it wasn't an income problem. I had a safety problem. And here's the myth that keeps so many of us stuck. I just need to earn more money. If I made £10,000 more a year, everything would be fine. And that may be something that you are taking into the next financial year, where you may be setting some goals of, I'm going to set a goal to get the next pay rise, to make an extra £10,000 this year. And I totally get it, right? It's the thing that society teaches you, that at this time of the year, you've got to have your next financial milestone. You've got to have another goal that you're heading towards. And it's an interesting one to dive into. And if you're genuinely struggling to meet your basic needs, i.e., you're struggling to afford food and housing and healthcare, then yes, absolutely, you do need more money. And this conversation is not about pretending that poverty isn't real or that systemic inequality doesn't exist. If you're in that situation, then the work is absolutely about increasing income, accessing resources, getting support, having your basic needs met. What I'm talking about here is the pattern that happens once you're beyond that survival stage, when your basic needs are covered, but you're still feeling this fear around money. You're still experiencing this scarcity, the same feeling of this is just not enough. And that's when money stops becoming the solution and healing your relationship with money becomes the work as we move into this year. So let's break down why this myth is so destructive. Well, first of all, you're chasing a moving target. That £10,000 more then becomes 20,000 more, and then 50,000 more. And the number keeps changing because it was never really about the number in the first place. It may have been that you've been comparing yourself to somebody else in the workforce that happens to be earning more than you and you feel like that's unfair. Or it may be you're comparing yourself to a business owner who's been in business for a similar amount of time and they happen to be more financially successful. And this comparisonitis is creating this feeling that we should be earning more money. That should be the financial goal. I've worked with clients who have literally tripled their income and still feel the same scarcity that they felt when they were earning a third of what they make now. And sometimes they actually feel more financial stress when they start to earn more, because then the fear comes in of, what happens if I can't sustain this? What happens if I can't hold on to this job or hold on to this financial metrics in my business? The second problem with this money myth is lifestyle creep. And when you earn more, you spend more. It is proven in human behavior around money that, not because you're irresponsible, but actually because you just adjust to this new baseline. And so that apartment that felt really luxurious at, maybe this was a £400,000 apartment, suddenly feels small when you're earning an extra 20,000 a year and you want to move house. And suddenly the milestone changes and that apartment no longer feels luxurious. It feels too small. Or the holiday budget that you stretched, before maybe spending £1,000 on a holiday was luxurious, and now 5,000 has become your new minimum. And so your spending scales with your income, but your sense of safety doesn't. And the reason why is because you may not have started to associate the relationship with money being about the relationship you have with yourself. And we'll talk more about that shortly. The third pattern that I see, that how this is so destructive, is it avoids the actual real issue, which is your relationship with money. And more money doesn't heal destructive money patterns. It doesn't resolve your attachment patterns. And I'm going to share some of those various attachment patterns with you in a moment. It doesn't change how safe you feel in your body when you look at your bank account. And the fourth reason is that it keeps you in this very masculine, status-driven, hustling behavior instead of thinking about, are there other ways that could bring joy into your life? Is it actually money that's going to create more happiness? Because when you believe that more money is the answer, then we stay in that hustle. We stay in that pushing harder, working longer hours, potentially sacrificing time with family, all whilst the underlying patterns that create that financial stress remain completely untouched. So think about it. People with millions still worry about money. There are billionaires on the planet who are terrified of losing it all. And this isn't just about having enough. It's about feeling enough. Just take a moment to contemplate that for a second. It's not about having enough. It's about feeling enough. And those feelings that you might experience when you are at a certain income level or a certain savings balance level will stay the same no matter what you're earning. It might mean that you can do more things, but the underlying feeling is still going to be the same. And so the scarcity that you feel is going to stay the same. The anxiety, the behaviors are still going to stay the same. And one really interesting way to look at this is to think about this through the lens of different money behaviors. We've created a tool called the Money StoryTypes tool, which you can grab a link to in the show notes, katherinemorgan.com/quiz. And in this quiz, we have 5 different money archetypes. One of them is the pacifist, and the pacifist is typically somebody who is a natural avoider with money. They shoulder the responsibility to other people because they believe that more money, more problems. That is too much responsibility. around money. The enabler, for example, is somebody who gives away too much of their wealth because actually having more money for them doesn't feel fair because they believe that it's not fair to have more money when other people are struggling in the world. The architect, for example, the architect loves planning ahead. They like to feel in control of money. The impulsive really likes to spend money for the sense of dopamine reward that is attracted to spending money. And the innovator is always chasing the next thing. And these patterns exist irrelevant of your earnings. These patterns scale with your income. And what I find really interesting with this is that when I earned that enough number that I mentioned earlier, something else happened for me that I really wasn't expecting. And that was I really started to notice how my body was responding to money, the way that my breath would become very shallow when I checked my bank balance, the tightness in my chest when I had to make a spending decision, the hypervigilance of always calculating my numbers and never quite feeling relaxed around money. And I realized that this is what I'd been carrying all along. The number in my account hadn't been the problem. My relationship with money was, and what I made it mean about myself. And here's what shifted everything for me and will shift everything for you. Understanding the different attachment styles with money. Just like we have an attachment style in certain relationships, your relationship with money forms an attachment style. So think about it in terms of relationships that you might have, first of all. You might have a very anxious attachment to relationships. You might fear that as soon as you meet somebody new, that there's this fear that they're going to leave or that you're going to lose that relationship. And so you might be seeking that constant reassurance and validation and can never quite fully relax into that relationship. It might be, excuse me, more of an avoidance attachment where I just can't look. It's too much. I'll deal with it later. And sometimes that can come up in relationships when there's conflict. It's too dramatic because too much going on with that person. It's too much for me. And we avoid being too close in that relationship. And so think about that when it comes to money. Think about, do you hold an anxious attachment with money? Is there a fear that someone's going to take it away? Is there a fear that you might lose it? Is there an avoidant attachment where just don't want to look at it? It's just too much. It's too overwhelming. This is very typical for a neurodivergent brain, is this avoidant attachment, because it's just too complicated. I don't understand it. No one's ever taught me about money. I'll just deal with it later. And then later never comes. Or perhaps it's a disorganized attachment where you really want the security. And this is the paradox, is that you want the security that money brings, but then we get it and we sabotage. And so we move towards money and then we push it away. And this definitely played out for me in my 20s. I would actually make money very easily and I would just push it away. I didn't feel safe to hold that money in my bank account because of what I made it mean. And the other type of attachment that is very common around money is the security attachment. So it might be that you can hold money, quite lightly, and you feel actually, whether I have it or whether I don't, like it's almost irrelevant because there's no real attachment to the money. It's that I can feel happy and safe and secure whether money is there or not. And the first time I think I ever really witnessed this with anybody was when I went to visit a Amazonian tribe, and the people in those tribes had very little in terms of what we, I guess, in modern society would see as a commercialized life. They had very little clothing. They didn't have like 17 wardrobes. They had very little attachment to physical things, cars, handbags, possessions. And so it was interesting to observe that money was held in a completely different way. It was all connected to resources and how resources are pulled together and shared collectively, not being about individual pursuit to have more money. And I really feel that right now, in that we are living in a society where everything is about individualism. It's about how much wealth can you build? How much personal wealth can you build yourself as an individual? And it creates this detachment that you are responsible for everything. And you might feel this, particularly if you're the main breadwinner, you might feel this instant attachment that, well, it's my responsibility. And if I don't bring that money in, who's going to do it? And it does create these patterns and behaviors with a strong attachment to money. And it stops you from changing jobs or leaving the employed world and going self-employed, because we hold this strong attachment to, well, what would happen if I no longer had that financial security? It just feels too risky to detach that money away from the family. And we also hold a strong attachment to what we make it mean about ourselves. What would happen if I suddenly wasn't the main breadwinner in my family? How do I feel about that? And that can play out very much in relationship patterns where you've got two people in a relationship and suddenly the person who was earning more than the other party, suddenly that changes and that balance of power shifts from one person to the other. And some relationships can deal with that and navigate that very beautifully. For others, it can bring up a lot of conflict because of their individual attachment styles around money. And most of us have some form of anxiety or avoidant attachment with money. We're generally either quite hypervigilant, constantly checking, never feeling like that money is enough, or we're avoiding, not looking at our numbers, not planning, almost disconnecting entirely. Which one of those do you feel more connected to? And here's the thing, is that earning more money doesn't change your attachment style. It just gives you more to be anxious about, or it gives you more to avoid. And there's something else that's really happening that's worth understanding in this conversation, which is the word abundance. Now, when I used to hear this word abundance, I would think that's for the spiritual gurus. It's very woo. The word just didn't really resonate. It wasn't even in my vocabulary, really, until I started to do personal development work. But what's really interesting about our relationship with abundance is that if you actually look back at the financial backdrop, in the 1980s, 1982, when the Americans opened up the stock market to the derivatives trading market, something really fundamental shifted in our cultural relationship with money. Because before this, abundance was about sustainability, having enough land to grow food, enough resources to support your family, enough saved or stockpiled for the leaner seasons in the cycles. And abundance was very much about balance and flow and trusting that different seasons require different amounts of resources. And you can think about this in the context of farming. If you were farming particular crops, you knew that in particular seasons you'd have an abundance of resources, and you would need to balance that with the seasons that harvest was lower and not so fruitful. And money kind of moved through your life in a way that sustained you. And what happened is that after 1982, abundance became about accumulation, more growth. And we witness that in the narratives that we hear from society, from magazine articles, from newspaper articles that we read. Certainly when I was growing up, all the headlines were about, the next pay rise, accumulating more. And the more you have, the more you need to protect it, the more you need to grow it, the more you need to prove it. And so this fundamental shift has completely skewed our notion of what enough means. Because true abundance isn't about how much you have. It's about realizing that you're generating, you're capable, you're resourced, you're creative, but you're not holding this desperate attachment to having more money. You can hold money lightly. You can let it flow. You can feel safe whether you have more or less. It is okay to have these seasons and cycles where more money is required, less money is required. And so when you think about next year, do you need to have money next year, more money next year? Maybe this year was the year of growth. Next year is about preserving. And it's interesting to think about that. Why is it that we feel this need to always be wanting more? And healing your relationship, attachment to money can really help you to experience real abundance, regardless of the amount of money that's sat in your bank account. So you might be wondering, well, so if earning more money isn't the answer, then what is? Well, the problem that we have is that, as we've shared already, it's not how much you make, it's how safe you feel with what you already have. And so here's a framework that could really work for you as we go into next year. And step one of this framework is to consider your enough number. And I want you to think about it in terms of a feeling. So right now, what income would actually feel like enough? What amount of money would feel like enough? And notice what feeling that will create for you. Notice the feeling. And notice that the number keeps moving because it's not really about the number. So I want you to really consider the feeling that is coming up when you think about the actual financial goal or the income goal. And step two is I want you to think about identifying the safety gap. So what would more money give you? And I want you to go deeper than financial security or peace of mind. What would it really give you? Is it really about worth or freedom? Is it about proof that you're enough? Proof that you're okay? And here's a really powerful question. Can you create that feeling without more money? Can you create that feeling of feeling enough without the need to have more money? Because if really what you're craving is a deep desire to feel worthy in yourself, then you can create safety without the need to have more money, rather than having to chase all these numbers that most of the time are outside your control. And then step three is to think about practicing safety on where you're at right now. Because if you can't feel safe with what you're earning now, you won't feel safe with £10,000 more. The work is about building the feeling of safety right now in your mind, in your body, in your nervous system, in your daily relationship with money. And so what does that look like? Well, that looks like being able to look at your bank balance without your breath, changing and quickening. It's about making financial decisions without shame, without panic. It's about holding the reality of your finances without avoidance. It's about practicing enoughness with what you have right now. And the practice of gratitude is the one emotion that is proven to help to increase your happiness. Did you know that? It's the one feeling that's going to help you to feel more joy. Is not by having more money, but actually being present and grateful for what is already happening. So the step 4 of this is to think about, what can you really control? You've got some control over how much you earn, but market conditions might affect that. Your industry may affect that. The economy may affect that. But what you do have full control over is your relationship with what you have. Not making more, but healing those attachment patterns, not reaching the next income level, but building safety at your current income level. And so the final part of this to share with you is I want to share a somatic practice with you, a body practice to change the emotional feeling. That's what somatic work is all about. So the next time that you feel that familiar panic or anxiety or stress around money, and we're talking about above basic needs here, then the next time you experience that, I want you to just place your hands onto your chest and just feel your breath. This is your body's way of regulating safety. So notice the breath, and then notice where you feel that resistance or that stress or that feeling in your body. And ask yourself in that moment, what am I really afraid of? What am I really afraid of? And then ask yourself, what do I need to feel safety in this moment? And sometimes the answer can be practical. I need to actually go and make a budget. I need to go and have an honest conversation with my partner about our holiday next year. I need to make some practical decisions around how I'm going to be investing or spending money this year. And sometimes the answer is somatic. It's that actually we just need to remind ourselves that we are safe. And practicing holding that feeling and recognizing what is the story, what is the narrative behind it, and then moving towards a new experience, moving towards a new positive feeling in your body of gratitude. And it's the easiest one to do because there's very often at least one thing in life that we are grateful for. Even if it's not the money part, it might be, I'm so grateful right now for this roof over my head. I'm so grateful now for the fact that my dog is down by my feet and I'm looking outside my window at the beautiful palm trees in my garden and the sun is shining. It's practicing something that we are witnessing right now in this moment. So what I'm not saying as we wrap this up is that you shouldn't work towards some financial goals. You shouldn't work towards building your business or developing your skills or increasing your value. But if you're earning more and that the goal for you is to earn more to fix how you feel about money, then it's not going to work. You have to heal your relationship with money first. You have to build safety into the feelings around money. You have to understand those attachment patterns and do the work to move towards a more secure attachment. And I genuinely believe that you can feel this sense of abundance at any income level. You can feel safe with £30,000. You can feel safe with £300,000. You can hold money lightly. You can trust that you are resourced and capable regardless of what else is going on. And for me, that's true wealth. It's well-being is about wellness in our being. Our being isn't just, in fact, it's not even anything to do with our bank account. Our being is to do with who we are, our sense of self, our essence. And for me, that's what wealth building is all about. So if this resonated with you, I have a couple of free resources for you. The first one is the Money StoryTypes assessment quiz that you can take to really understand your unique patterns and attachment styles with money. The link's in the description below. And this assessment is going to help you to understand what patterns may be keeping you stuck and how to heal them. And the other resource that I have for you as well is to have a look at some of those influences around your relationship with money. So if you head over to themoneypanel.co.uk/beliefs, there's also a PDF that you can download that will help you to start to open out those pieces around your influences around money and those attachment styles. If you are watching this on YouTube, I'd really appreciate perhaps a thumbs up on this video, and drop me a comment and let me know what is your feeling that you're wanting to create as we move into a new year. Hit that subscribe button so you can hear some more resources coming your way very soon. And if you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for listening on the It's Not About the Money show today. I will be here again next Monday, and I will see you then. Take care, guys.